Oh, okay. Yep.
Okay, this is our final panel of the day, which is The Girl with the Red Hat. I have the lead actor here, Jay Dixon Byrne, with me. If you don't know who he is, you probably should, or Google him. Apparently, you have two websites. I'm kidding. One of them doesn't work, by the way. I found that
Uh,
out.
Well, they should both be working, but I'm transferring to this other server, so one's going to go down anyway.
I getcha.
But one's.
So, you are a man of many different hats. So, I would like to start by asking a simple question. It's often been said in all the various roles, like I was talking about either earlier, excuse me, either you are somebody who's on one side of the fence who's redeeming another person, or you're the one who's destroying someone, so to speak, proverbially. Which performer do you prefer to be more often? Do you prefer to be the bad guy or the one who's redeeming more often?
Well, I don't really have a preference between either two of those. Whatever role kind of talks to me and I can connect with, I get the same amount of enjoyment out of doing. So I don't have a preference for the bad guy, which I don't know if I'm always or I'm really a bad guy. I'm sort of a disturbed guy all the time. And that kind of fits with everything.
Well,
So that works out, and if I can make a connection, I think if any actor can make a connection with a character, that's where the enjoyment really comes from, because then you're just kind of flowing.
right. And I realize you're only a little over 40. So, of course, I
Right.
know that you're a few days with the wisdom as it relates to acting. So, as you are doing more and more roles, are you finding that you are being able to sharpen particular skills? Meaning that I'm at the point in
Yeah.
time, like, if could you say, I definitely want to do more romance now? Or are you more geared in other places now that you're getting more experience, somewhere you want to go more often?
Um, Let me think about that. Well, it's that's interesting because I look at it kind of inside out. I think earlier in my career, if I was given a disturbed person, I might be more likely to exaggerate the disturbance, right?
Sure.
But now, if you're given a disturbed person, you're more likely to just be a person who appears how they appear, and through their actions and what they say, they're disturbed. So it's a subtle difference, but it's I don't look for roles that, oh, I'll be like the straight guy, like the father, the happy dad, or the happy
Yeah.
grandfather. That's not what it is. I also these roles that sometimes I'm offered are more complex, and that I enjoy. I have this role in this movie called Frank and Edna Take on Le Mans, where I'm a guy who finds out he's got cancer, but he never did the thing he wanted to do, and he's insane. He's totally insane. And he's made more insane and depressed by the cancer diagnosis. But he's also a loving grandfather to the grandson. So to be able to have that range within a part is really what I look for. Not so that's what I would say.
Nice. Now, before you were an actor, I know you come from a background where you have, and
Oh,
you were formerly in advertising. So,
yeah.
interesting question. If by some chance advertising, did it lend itself to helping you in acting? Are there certain things you took away from that career that you could bring into acting or producing?
Well, advertising is an acting shit show to begin with. So, that kind of fit. Everybody in advertising is acting. That's what I think. So, but it's generally bad acting because
It's
they're just pretending to be like something that they're maybe not, or they're pretending to know a solution for a client, which they really don't have, or, they're trying to sell something. So there's a lot of selling going on in advertising. So when you're selling, you're not the most truthful person, in the whole world. You're selling, and it may be with good intent, and it may have some benefit to the people that are buying, but it's not really authentic in the nature of acting. So,
okay.
it's a big different world, totally different world.
Yeah,
You work
it
with
is.
different parts of your psyche in those worlds.
Hmm. I thought that this was so cool. You have to talk about this. You once did a radio play, and I've been trying to figure out
Oh,
how exactly you structure a radio play because that is so different.
yeah, this is James Clines Wilkins is his name. He wrote and directed it with Robin Shavor. And what they came up, James is has a reputation for trying to break form. I did a film with him initially called Mediums,
Okay.
and everything in it, the characters were kind of medium personalities. The shots were all medium shots. Everything was about being in the middle and being sort of average.
Okay.
And he did another one called that was all close-ups. Absolutely. Every shot was like your fingertips or your hand or your arm or your elbow. So he decided with Robin, I guess, to do this radio play, which is an hour and a half. It's a feature film length, and the only thing that happens in the theater when you're listening to the story is the screen will change variations of white, gray, or black. So it's a little, you have to be ready for this, but
Sure.
you do get caught up in the story, So when you're listening to the radio, you're imagining the images, right? An
Yes.
old time radio. And when you're in this event, we had a screening of it about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, there was a special screening of it. And I went and you see the people, like you can see them, there they are, they're like I played an elder, and it was and I have to yell at somebody, and you just see them all in action. So it's a fascinating thing. I don't think there'll be a lot of them,
Sure.
but there are form breakers, and he's a form breaker.
Ah, thank you very much for that. I just thought that was the neatest thing because I'm like, it's
Yeah,
pretty rare that I ever come across a radio play, which I think is awesome. Um, as I mentioned earlier in our discussion, you do advisory. So tell me how long
yeah,
you've been doing that and what sort of, if a
yeah,
person is watching this today and they think they might need your help, tell
right.
people specifically what you offer.
Well, I think from a like I said before, I was in advertising, so I know a lot about marketing. I know a lot about selling. I know a lot about pitching. I know a lot about positioning and strategy for how you create an image for something. So for a film, I've been very helpful in all the films I've worked on as an
Hmm.
actor or a producer to say, well, this is really what the film's about. This is how we should position the film. This could be a tagline for the film.
Okay.
This could be the poster for the film. So there's a lot of work that I've done there already going, for the 15 or so years that I've been actively doing the advertising thing.
Yeah.
However, what was really interesting was we had this short film that we made about my partner and I made about 2.5 years ago called Obraza. In English, it's called Resentment. It won Woodstock. It was in Berlin. And it's doing very well. We're now making the feature version of this. And I went through a process there where I really got to know what the festivals are looking for. So
Mm.
this was something very helpful that I think I could bring to a group of people who would like to be involved. And I do
Sure.
that on the films that I've worked on. I do I do a lot of feature films, but I also do a lot of these little short films,
Hmm.
which they generally don't know where to go, how to do anything, what happens next.
Yeah.
You've educated me on that yourself. So I think it's and they're usually young. The people that I work with, I could be on a set where there's 50 people, but I could be on a set where I'm the oldest of the three people there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, sure.
not the oldest, the combined ages, I'm the oldest. So, they don't have a lot of experience as a director or as a writer or whatever. So I can help them with, like, this isn't really a film about happiness. This is really a film about conflict and sadness. So whatever
Yeah.
whatever comes up. So positioning is something that I bring, I think, to somebody and would be, worth their investment.
Gotcha. On the writing side of things, besides writing, let's say film, what else have you written?
Well, I've contributed to the writing of film, right? So
Right.
if I'm a character in a film, I'm suggesting storyline or whatever, or
Sure.
and dialogue. I have one screenplay I've written that I've that I have in a couple of different festivals that may or may not go anywhere. It's very difficult to find funding for this kind of a experimental screenplay.
Yeah.
But what I've written, I've created a site called the Perception Studio. I don't think you know this, and it is. Let me find you. It is. It's where I take all the little bits and pieces of things that I've created and developed and written and produced and put into some organizational principle where
Okay.
the idea is to test your concept of what's real and what's not real, what you believe in and what you think might be true, but maybe it isn't really true. So, for example, there's a 20-minute piece I did about a guy who goes in to see a psychiatrist.
Okay.
And it's a radio, it's 20 minutes, it's audio, but it's
Okay.
only 20 minutes, it's not a feature, and it's audio. And you kind of listen to him kind of dismantle himself, because
Hmm.
he starts off with, people call me a bigot, but I'm not really a bigot. But of course he's a bigot, and it goes on and on. So there's a
Okay.
whole sure, and then poems are involved. I experimented with AI in there. It's a pretty interesting conglomeration of things. It's called the Perception Studio.
Okay. Thank you very much for
Right,
sharing
right, right.
that. Because I'm like, yeah, that's definitely something that we should know about. On the production side of thing, you've done 5 projects. As an actor, you've done 34 projects. If I were to ask you today, as both actor and producer, how concerned are you about the talk that is, well, there's tons of talk about how the industry is suffering, whether it's Hollywood or otherwise, whether you're an actor, producer, director, and that
Yeah.
things are going to become tighter financially, opportunities are going to be dwindling. Do you have hope walking into 2026 as far as industry goes in your future?
Yeah, I have hope. I have fingers crossed hope. I think it's
Yes.
it's facing it's facing all the things that you talk about. It's facing the issues of for AI. It's facing the
Yeah.
issues of conglomeration and mergers.
Yeah.
But you look at the history of things, and the history of things suggests that there are cycles and things go through things.
Right.
So I think if you are on the other side of it, you look at people like even Scorsese, and they're continuing to work. They're continuing to make movies that are worth seeing. There's a horror that is Netflix, but there's also a couple of benefits to that horror, which I just saw Jay Kelly,
Yeah.
which is a really good film by two, you know, Hollywood/independent kind of filmmakers who do risky things. So I,
Hmm.
you know, so we have to kind of look at the output of the work overall. It, it's going to crush some people, but I don't think that it is going to negate the necessity to tell stories.
Hmm.
You know,
Let's hope so, anyways. And I
right?
guess my other question is this, because you're in New York City and you can speak to this. A lot of us are worried about the future of actual theaters, whether they be independent theaters or even some of the chains. As far as New York goes, are we, in your opinion, everything continuing to stay wide open? No worries about anything shutting down?
No, I think there's worries about things shutting down based on attendance, data,
Yeah.
but there's the Cherry Lane Theater, for example, down in Manhattan that now has, it's converted to a movie theater. It's
Hmm.
become uh, sort of an event space. Yeah, there are a lot of theaters that I read about, movie theaters that I read about that are opening and revitalizing.
Hmm.
I grew up in a small town in Roslyn, Long Island. That movie theater is now being renovated. It's been dormant and almost burnt down, and they want to bring it back. So I
Oh.
think people would really like to go back to the movies. I think they really want to do that. It's expensive. It's a little
Hmm.
less, it's more, it's not inconvenient, but it is more inconvenient than being lazy, which we've learned to be.
Yeah.
So I think you have to take a little bit of an initiative, but I think it can come back in a big way. I think kids have to go to the movies. You have to bring 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds back to the movies.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic experience. I don't think it's dead. you know.
Thank you for saying that. I do have great hope for that, but different parts of the world, different places, of course, we want to
Right.
check in and see how it is. So the film itself, first
Yep.
off, we don't have Sandeep with us. So I understand he is a first-time filmmaker based
Yep.
on
He
what I
is.
read. And
Right.
so I guess if you could speak a bit about your experiences working with a first-time filmmaker, because I have yet to meet him. He seems lovely, but obviously when we're all working with someone who has a little less experience,
Right.
um, don't know what to expect. How was the experience with him?
But the experience with Sandeep was very good. He had a good crew. He had a good organization. He first of all he wrote a good script. Um,
Yeah.
he's been involved with film. I met him on a film site as I was shooting something else by another director a couple of months before he asked me to be in the film
Mhm.
because he was working on the film. So I don't know what other experience he has within the film industry, in terms of production, but he was a good director. He knew what he wanted, but he was open to listening. He did great casting. I think if you
Yeah.
look at the casting in that film, it's really good. Um, I think he's in touch with editing because I think it's edited well and the production
Hmm.
values are good. So I would say as a first time filmmaker, and he's not a kid, I don't know
Oh,
how
right.
old I don't know how old he is, but he's not a film school guy. He's not I wouldn't say he's old, but he's middle age, maybe to the younger side, maybe, I don't know.
Sure.
And he's he was good. So it was a good experience.
Lovely. And I also noticed, obviously, you were working with your lead, Johanna's character.
Right.
I want to ask about the relationship between the two of you, meaning A, did you have adequate time to prepare together off screen, clearly, because it does mesh very well. And
Right.
second of all, what element do you think she brought to that character to make it more lively? Because she was so bubbly and exorbitant and just really all encompassing in this.
She was terrific, and we didn't really have that. We didn't really do that many rehearsals for this thing. We kind of went right into it, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, and it worked out. It worked out great. I think she's very talented. Of
Hmm.
course, I'm very talented, so it worked out. It worked out, and the characters were written well. The dialogue was good. I think we had an audition and one rehearsal time.
Wow. Oh
Right.
my gosh.
So,
Okay. Um, to those that are going to watch this that are not from New York City, those of us that go to New York City already realize how daunting it can be to film in the city. So, we obviously see Dixon and the movie itself in different places. Clearly, you're
right.
outside selling and you see various elements of the city. So, how challenging was that to film in the city because you're in a very
Oh,
large area like that?
I don't I'm not sure. It wasn't a problem at all. They from my perspective is from what I saw from where we were,
Sure.
there was really no difficulty in getting the space, organizing like the crowds to be however the crowds needed to be. Um, it was pretty simple, and I've been on many shoots in the city like that, and the city's very friendly to shooting. I found very
Oh.
friendly. I've never had a difficulty. I've had, sometimes the police will tell you to move along a little if you don't have a permit, but
Yes.
they don't really give you a hard time, and
Oh, nice.
you go a block and you're kind of okay. So that's and I've done a lot, so
Yeah,
it hasn't really been a problem.
I like that.
Yeah.
So your character, Jacob, one might interpret that you are representative of goodness and kindness and direction, whereas Johanna is a representation of maybe use and it is youth really, but meaning you are her guide and
Right.
she is in need of a mentor and you show up very unexpectedly with all of these words of wisdom, which I thought was amazing. So I
Right.
guess the question becomes is do you think that Jacob is learning anything besides the obvious, the monetary thing? Has Johanna taught Jacob anything that he could take from that relationship?
Well, when you say besides the monetary thing,
Yeah.
I think she opened his eyes to be a little more willing to move on, to open up a little bit,
Yeah.
because at the end he's very, the way I saw it, it was now he was enthusiastic about it. It was the money was driving that, but he also was he kind of liked it a little bit. It was
Yeah.
kind of like a little enjoyable to him. So I think in his own way, he just relaxed a little. So I think she took that from him. But I think the story was basically focusing you on her transformation from, you know, suicidal kid to like, happy adult.
Yeah, you betcha.
You know?
Well, and the other thing we noticed too in the beginning is there's this need to be approved of, and so the big vast social media hole that we're
Right.
all in, where we need so many likes and followers. Social media is just the thing. The other thing I wanted to ask about was, your character Jacob has these references my mother used to say, and I was wondering
Right.
if this is based like, did Sandeep have this great mom that was just like, let's just throw the mom thing in here? Because I was
Well,
like, it's mom reference time.
yeah, I mean, he wrote it that way, and he says yes, he did have the kind of that, and maybe, I'm not. So yes, I think it was true.
Aw.
But if you as an actor, of course, you're going to relate that to your own mother and your aunt, or your grandmother, the women in your life that feed that. So I used a little bit of that, and I think it was his way too of anchoring this thing in the past,
Yeah.
like tradition. Tradition's important, and
Yes.
don't give up. And these qualities that are essential to you as a human being are being attacked and mitigated by this online information that you think is true. And
Right.
if you're 13 or 15, or not even 15, if you're 12 or 13, you're going to be damaged by this. And I
Yeah.
so I think that was part of the strength of Jacob's argument, which was this isn't just this old man talking. This is this old man's mother. And
Yeah.
and probably then you're going to think she got it from her parents. So it goes back and back and back. And even Johanna's mother gave her some advice. It wasn't quite as sensitive as it might have
Sure.
been. But you know, people who didn't grow up this way know better, even though they fall victim to it a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah. And I was trying to figure out Johanna's. Do you know the age bracket they were shooting for? Because some of these themes I thought, well, the social media fits, but I felt like there was just a whole loss of human connection in her realm. And I'm like, I wonder how old she's supposed to be, because that takes a while to really miss a human connection. You know what I
right,
mean?
right. Well, how old was Johanna? I mean, you could tell me what you think. She was under 20, or 15,
Yeah.
not 15, but
Like maybe
18,
16 or
17,
17,
yeah, 17, 18 in that
something like
neighborhood.
that.
And I have three grandchildren. One of the reasons I really was
Yes.
happy to do this movie was because, they're right in there. The oldest is 19, the youngest is 13. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is a good story for those kids. you know.
Yes, you betcha. And when we look at Dear Jacob, which I think is very sweet, I'm going to venture to guess there's a whole lot of Dixon in Jacob. Is there?
Well, yeah, I mean, you asked me earlier on about playing the bad guy. I
Yes.
mean, here's a good guy, but he's a little crazy and he's a little, not selfish, but he's he's alone.
Yeah.
He's who he is by himself, and he has his ways, and F you if you don't like it, kind of thing. So yeah, there's a little bit of that going on. But but
Also, please tell me that you got to keep some of those hats. Those were some wonderful looking hats, by the way.
that
Where did you
that
guys get those?
well, he produced most of the hats. The hat I was wearing through it
Yes.
was my son's hat that he bought when he was about 12 years old. He's 20, he's
Oh,
20 now. So I went back
nice.
in the closet, I found that hat, and I'm wearing this hat for the movie. And that was the starter hat. And then production
Mm,
and Sandeep pulled together all those hats. So I didn't
nice.
really have to do the hats.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should have sent you home with some of those hats though, because they were absolutely
That's
exquisite. I'm like, they were really neat looking. I'm like, they're cool.
People were
Um,
taking the hats. That's the
That's good.
that'd be good.
Do you have any idea where you guys are screening next or where people can see it next?
No, we had a screening in a festival out in San Francisco at one point.
Okay.
I haven't heard the latest on where it's going to be.
That's fine. And I can go ahead and find out and post it up once I talk to
Right.
Sandeep about this afterwards. I don't want to forget to ask you about you've got the Burning Bride that's coming up, and of course you've got don't you have a secondary one too? There's two
Wait,
that's in post.
you have the Burning Bride in this festival?
No, meaning your
Oh.
upcoming projects. I'm asking
Oh
you about
no, The Burning
future.
Bride. No, it's reported in a way that's really weird. The Burning Bride was a film I did many years ago.
Oh,
That was something that's sort of in my past. That The Burning Bride, and I had a
oh,
small part. I had a small part as the not the bishop, but the cardinal. I was the
okay.
cardinal in The Burning Bride.
Okay.
But I have two features that are in development. One is with Sandeep Kumar,
Yes.
which is really, really a good movie. We're trying to get that, into a variety of different festivals. It's just finished.
Okay.
So we're looking at that. And I have a there that's a story about two parallel lives that should never meet and are kind of come together.
Okay.
And I have another I have a film at the Rotterdam Film Festival in end of January by James Clines Wilkins, the guy who did the radio
Oh,
play.
yeah.
And this is another experimental film where he took us as actors. I have a very good part as sort of a supporting role as a carpenter who has cancer, while people and I'm renovating a house that the yuppies just rented. So it, but he takes all of the characters
Hmm.
and he has put them through a gaming machine, and we come out. Look, it's not really AI. So because it's my voice and it's my intonations and
Okay.
we all the actors did the voice delivery, but they do composites of what they want you to look like animation, but it's not just animation. Some of the characters look 99% like a human being, and some of the characters, like 12% of the characters look like they could be from another planet. You're not quite sure where they're from. They have their ears a little weird, the leg is off, and it's a bizarre conglomeration of
Sure.
people who meet up in this house for a weekend of understanding. It played at the Brooklyn Film, one of the festivals in Brooklyn, um, under a different name to kind of test it out because it wasn't finished then.
Okay.
And people they love it. It's a great film. It's a really disturbingly great film. So,
Disturbingly
so
great. I
that's
love
going to
it.
be that's going to be at Rotterdam.
Okay.
And, that's what I got going on.
Thank you for that. So, in conclusion on the panel, I think it's only fair to tell you that your film has two nominations.
Oh, great.
Um, one of which is Best Dramatic Short Film over 16 minutes. And the second nomination, very happy to report, is for you, Best Male
Ah,
Actor in a Dramatic Film over
great.
16 minutes. Congratulations to you.
That's
I'm
great.
so excited about that. All of the films in this block were just exceptional. I was
Yeah,
incredibly happy with
I did
everyone.
love the films. I don't know who's listening to this right now, but I really love the films that were up.
Thank you.